Stop trying to sell Nordstrom's goods at a Walmart parking lot. Hi, I'm Brita Long, and I am the author and creator of The Happier Attorney. And this is the channel where we talk about all things flat fee and the mindset to get you to use flat fees properly and the mindset to really help you become a much happier attorney. And in my Facebook group, Attorneys and Flat Fees, which if you are an attorney, I would invite you to join if you aren't part of it already, I get questions all of the time about sticker shock. And what generally happens is when attorneys start using flat fees, they read my book or they join the Facebook group and they just come up with a flat fee and they hit start. And the fee is generally, it sounds like it's a bigger number than what they would normally have charged for an initial deposit. And so what happens is that the potential client gets sticker shock and pushes back, and then the attorney lowers the price, or heaven forbid, goes back to hourly. They say, oh, flat fees don't work because my potential client, they're pushing back on this higher rate. It's really not a higher rate. It just seems like a higher rate because it's a higher rate at the beginning, okay? But what happens is that the attorney really doesn't understand why they're getting so much pushback or what to do about it. So here's what's going on. The attorney isn't communicating the value of the fee to the potential client, okay? That's an entirely separate video, which we'll get into at a later date. But the potential client isn't understanding the value, isn't understanding why it's in their best interest to pay what seems to be a higher price at the get-go, number one. Number two, they are not understanding that it's actually not a higher price. They are not understanding that while let's say, for instance, the price is going to be $20,000 for a divorce, okay? They're not understanding that that's what they're going to pay if they go to someone else. They're just not going to know it. Because we know what happens if they go down the street. They're going to go down the street. They're going to get in with an attorney for, let's say, an initial deposit of $3,000 or $5,000, whatever. And what's going to happen is that money, that deposit is going to be used like that immediately. And then they're going to get a bill the next month and a bill the next month. It could be $300. It could be $3,000. And they're not going to know. And they're going to have no control over that bill. And but make no mistake, at the end of the representation, they will have paid $20,000 or more, right? That's what it cost. But with hourly and with low deposits, they have a false sense of what it's going to cost, okay? So it's up to us to make sure that they understand what's really going on here. And we need to start that off at the beginning. You need to know who your target market is. Who are you trying to bring into your office? And I remember, there were plenty of days where it's like, well, anybody who's willing to pay me. You can't do that because then you're going to get not ick people, but people who are not a good fit for you. And you have to look at, how are you attracting people? Who are you attracting? What kind of service are you providing? What does your website, your office, your appearance tell your potential client about your price? Yes, perception is reality. Perception is everything. One can't go from, let's say, a lower end clientele, and then suddenly start charging much higher prices and think that there's not going to be a little gap there, a little bit of time before you start attracting the higher end prices, okay? So hence the title of this video. If you were charging lower prices, let's say like a Walmart, you can't then just up your price to, let's say, a Nordstrom's and think there's not going to be a gap. You're going to be attracting an entirely different set of clients. And it's going to take some time and effort to do that. And you don't attract those Nordstrom's customers in the Walmart parking lot. You have to change your perception, their perception. You have to change your look, everything about who you are trying to attract. Okay. So if you are targeting just based on value, not on price, which are completely two different things, you're not going to attract the clients who are only interested in getting the lowest price. You're going to start attracting people who understand the value of your service and are willing to pay a higher price. Because really, you generally don't want a client who their biggest priority is price. Okay. And you have to start at the beginning of contact with them. If you are upping your price and your perception of your price, you have to have that perception up front. And it has to be consistent. And it may sound silly, but really, perception is reality for people. And imagine you put yourself in their position. Imagine you wanting to buy a higher ticket item. Let's say you were going to a very specialized doctor and you drove up to her office and it was in a rundown strip mall. And you walked in and it was dirty and dingy and dark. You see her and she seems to know what she's talking about, and she quotes a healthy price for your procedure. Doesn't something feel off? Aren't you like, okay, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. Are you going to hire her? Probably not, because it's not consistent. What do you expect when you go to someone who knows really what they're doing? You expect things to be consistent. Versus if you go to the same doctor, same procedure, same price, but in a nice office, there wouldn't be an issue. It would be consistent and in line with her pricing. So this is how other people think as well. And I'll tell you, I went to a money coach once. This was, man, probably 2 decades ago. And it was in Seattle. Her entire job is to teach people about having a healthy money mindset and making more money and having prosperity, right? And she was a published author. She was an expert. She was on TV and she was the go-to person, right? I pulled up to her office and was shocked. I was shocked. It was not consistent with anything that she taught or what I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect, marble floors and her to be in a high rent, high rise, but I didn't expect this. This was pretty low rent and it looked like she was struggling. So someone who's struggling financially is going to teach me how to not struggle financially. And I didn't end up using her. And she might have had great things to teach me, but there was a big disconnect there. Okay. So it might sound silly, but how does your website look? Have you actually invested in it? Have you had professional photos done? Do you have good copy, or did you just take a free or low cost website? If you want people to invest in your service, you have to have invested first. What does your office look like? Even if it's a home office, would you hire you? Is everything consistent with who you're trying to attract? And then when you're setting a healthy flat fee, is that consistent with everything else around you and the perception of you and your firm? Okay. Again, this doesn't mean going to extremes or overspending, but yes, you do have to look and act professionally. You don't need a $100,000 car, but if your clients see you driving a 20-year-old junker, that may not be the message that you want to send, because perception matters. And you have to look the part, y'all. I remember I had a client, this was many, many, many years ago, and it was in a very small, very rural and poor county. And I went to court. He had a DUI and he had lived there all his life. He was a good old country boy. No, make no mistake about it. And we were sitting there waiting for the docket, and another defense attorney walked in, and she walked up to counsel table. And this good old boy looks at me and he goes, "Is she an attorney?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Wow, I would never hire her." Yeah. Here's the thing. That attorney, there was nothing wrong with her legal skills, but she didn't look like an attorney. She didn't dress like an attorney. And I'm not saying we all need to wear, a blue Brooks Brothers suit, but perception matters. And the hair was always messy, disheveled, and she didn't look the part. And it matters. So, good, bad, or indifferent, perception matters. And once you have your look and consistent service, then start with higher prices. And then learn how to make sure that your potential client understands what they're getting and that price should not be the highest priority whatsoever. If you've gotten any value out of this, I would ask you to like, subscribe, comment, do the things so that we can keep this message going for other attorneys. And if you would like more information about working with me, click the link below and to go to breedalong.com and you can see how to work with me. So thank you all and take care.